Heather Staff, co-founder of Spectre, you are one of a very few senior females in the property industry on the prop tech side. Why do you think there is a lack of females in senior roles, both in prop tech and particularly a estate agency? Please talk to me.
It's a huge question, isn't it? So I could talk about this for a long time, and I think there's some sort of macro elements that I don't know whether you do or you don't want me to get into, and then there's some industry-specific elements.
Well, let's start off with the macro first and then nail down into estate agency.
Okay, so this is just my personal belief, but I think part of the problem is that for men and women, with having children, it's unequal from the moment that that child is born. And I think some of that is to do with that we don't have shared or forced equality with shared parental leave, like they do in the Nordic countries. So I think it's Sweden. Both parents have to take an equal amount of paternity leave, which means that career-wise you've got equality from the start, whereas I don't think we have that yet in this country. So I think that's one slight problem, or large problem, depending on how you view it. And then if I move, I was a consultant for 10 years before I moved into this industry, so I've seen loads of different industries, and this problem is not unique to a estate agency, but I would say it is quite bad in a estate agency. And it's difficult to say. In terms of prop tech, there are quite a few actual senior people, senior females, so I don't think it's quite as bad in prop tech. In a estate agency, I think, again, this is just my personal view, but I think there's a bit of a vicious circle, which has been proven by science to happen. So if you are a white male, subconsciously you will, it's like subconscious bias, but you will relate more easily to somebody that reminds you of yourself. And so you do have to, and if you relate to them, you're more likely to help them and coach them and promote them. Even if it's not deliberate, it's subconscious and it happens. So I think one of the things that we have to be aware of in the industry is to be aware that that is happening and to stop it, to break that cycle, because the more that happens, we're not going to solve the problem. So I think if you're watching this and you're a senior male in a estate agency, at least be aware that that might be something that's subconsciously happening. I think as well, again, it's been proven that women are more likely, and this is all this science, by the way, is just more likely, obviously individuals are all individual, this is just averages, but women are more likely to wait until they know that they're ready for promotion and they tick every single box.
Isn't that interesting? You go for a job and there's 10 requirements, and I'm making a sweeping statement, and this is not for everyone, but if a man ticks 7 out of 10 boxes, sod it, we'll wing the rest.
Yeah.
What's again a lot of ladies I've spoken to, unless you get all 10, you don't go for it.
Yeah, and I've read about all of this, and I've read all the books on this, and I thought, does that really happen in my previous life? Because obviously, I didn't really see it. And then it was about a year ago, I looked at my own business, and I was like, yeah, that is happening. And so I made a conscious effort to go out for lunch and make sure that people were pushing themselves if they wanted to, and did they know that they could be going for this? And I tried to actually take positive action to make sure that everybody was equal, even if they weren't pushing equally for it. So yeah, I think people could be more aware of that.
Okay, so there's a responsibility from the bosses to be aware of their subconscious bias. What about the responsibility of the ladies, the females themselves? Surely there has to be some responsibility on their shoulders.
Yeah, I think every female is pretty much aware of this, and yeah, maybe you could say you should be more confident, but what are you saying, that they should go for stuff when they are 7 out of 10, or should the men not be going when they're not 10 out of 10? So, on average, I've read a very, very interesting book actually called Inferior, which I recommend to anyone, which is actually the science behind the sexes and how much difference actually is there. And there's really not that much scientifically different, but, with society there can be. So, for example, the word bossy is not used with a man, but it is used with women, whereas assertive would be used for a man. And sometimes, again, it's that subconscious bias, that word should not be used with women, or a dragon or whatever. No, she's assertive, and so there are barriers to women, and I think it's more on us as a society to make sure that people aren't being held back unnecessarily.
Okay.
And the other thing on that is, as a female, it's much easier to push for things when you can see somebody that reminds you of you and you can see them in that position. And at the moment, again, that's not happening as much because there aren't that many senior women in a state agency. So it's difficult for people because you can't see yourself being in that role, whereas it's much easier for a man because they see people like them every day doing that, so they can relate to it and go for it. And for me, I'm going to shut up in 1 minute, I promise you. But for me, my mum, she set up her first estate agency when she was 24. She went into a bank, she got a loan, she set it up, and she was extremely successful. So for me, it's almost foreign not to think that I could do that, because that's the environment that I was brought up with. You can run your own business, just do it. You know, whereas be cognizant of the fact that if you haven't seen it and you haven't lived it, or you've not got a role model, it's much more difficult to push for something when you can't see it.
What do you think I could be doing more of?
In life?
No, I mean, I've purposely, in the last few months, I mean, it's interesting that out of the, you know, in the first couple of years, the ratio of females to males on the sofa was probably 1 to 9.
Yeah.
You know, 1 female to 9 males. This month alone, the ratio is 40% female, because I've purposely gone out there looking for females with great stories to tell. And I think, you know, my advice, please, if you're watching this, if you know someone who's battled through adversity, who's a female, who's got a great story to tell, I want them on that sofa where Heather is now. So again, we can create more role models and tell the story.
I think that's good. And I think a lot of people, particularly women, might listen to that and think, why give us special treatment? You know, we're fine, we can do it on our own, whatever. But I actually did a project when I was at KPMG, which was, I went out to South Africa to work on the quotas stuff that they had over there. So I did a lot of research into quotas at the time, which was obviously a different thing, but same thing, diversity. And quotas are extremely controversial across the board, but they're all about breaking that cycle. So if you can force it, and by doing this, you know, people are seeing more females doing stuff, it does help, even though it's not nice to think, oh, I'm only here because I'm a female. Obviously, I'm not, I know, because Spectre's amazing and that's why I'm here. But
yes,
yeah.
But if you can break the cycle, you might not feel necessarily nice for yourself,
but you'll help the next generation.
You help the next generation,
Yeah.
and we have to break this cycle.
Yeah.
Because I'm telling you here and now, my best estate agency bosses were female.
Well, the agent that sold my house was a female. You know, I had 10 valuations, which I know is totally immoral, but I picked the woman because she was the best.
You're the one that waters it down.
What?
You're the one that waters all the valuation leads.
Yeah, sorry, that was market research. But yeah, I picked the woman. She was brilliant. When she saw my house, she did an unbelievable job. Shout out to Vicky at Location.
Final thing you want to say?
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to say?
Oh, on this? No, I would just encourage anybody, if you're running a business, to research this stuff. Everybody has subconscious bias. You can go onto the Harvard University website. You can do tests. Even if you think I don't have biases, that will prove to you that you do. And then it's just being aware of it and countering it. You know, when you're doing interviews, when you're doing your one-to-ones with your staff, are you aware of this sort of stuff so that you can combat it and help the problem?
Thank you for your time today. We'll put those links in the YouTube channel below. If you're watching this on YouTube, if you're watching it on LinkedIn or social media, you'll need to go to my YouTube channel and you'll get the links there. Thank you for your time today. I look forward to seeing you on other videos where we talk about business generation techniques.
Cheers,
from
Chris.
the queen of business generation, from Heather from Spectre, and other things like prop tech fatigue and things like that. So thank you for your time today.
Cheers, Chris.